Okay, testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Can you also hear the fire in the background? Hang on. All right. Fireplace sounds. Fireplace sounds good. I didn't even realize that I had my mic switched to another setting, so I'm glad everybody's hearing me. Welcome to a new episode of Stories After Dark, episode 4. And for those of you who don't know, I'm deciding to do a live streaming, live reading series called Stories After Dark because everybody loves a good story when the lights go out. Yeah, I know it sounds a little cheesy, and so I'm gonna go back into the roll call again. We have Meow, aka Meow Meow. What's up? Hope you're still here. We also have Bree Thompson. Hello, what's up? Welcome to the stream. We have 13 past midnight. What's up, Steve Stockton? Long time no see. Where you been, man? Duke, are you eating Trixie's food? Oh no, it's Trixie eating her food. Okay. We also have Sarah's Death. What's up? And we have Cool Cat, aka Katie, aka one of my few Patreons. What's up? How you been? We have Sojin691, aka Brenda. What's up? Thanks for the badass artwork, by the way. Thanks for the badass fan art. You really are. You truly rock, man. We have David S. Vingman. What's up? And we also have AT. Nope, no. Gotta call him by his real name. We have Onyx Valet, aka Andrew Valentine. What's up? Who has now changed his name back to Onyx Vale or Alex Valet. I'm just gonna call you Onyx. And B-Head of the Horror Hive. What's up? Give my regards to Reaper. So, I'm sorry for the delays and everything. I'm just had a little bit of trouble trying to get people out of the living room. But I believe everybody's going to bed. And we have a baby. Yeah, so if you hear wah, wah, I'm sorry about that. So I just to put a little night fire into the stream to make it more authentic when I read to you. And we have 9 in the chat so far. And to the lurkers out there, don't be shy, say something. And I was supposed to have Nightbot on here, but apparently Nightbot's out of it. And I don't know. But I guess we'll get to that point when it happens. Well, this kid is my baby mama's and I take it back. My baby mama's and her husband's baby. They just had it. Let's say about. Let me check the calendar real quick. They had it around on the 8th of June. Or was it 15th? Anyways, they had the baby this month and they're trying to feed it, trying to get it to sleep. And I hope I don't put all y'all to sleep, so. Some stuff real quick. Nah. Reaper doesn't need to be dipped in formaldehyde. He just needs to try to pop in every once in a while. If you're going to B-Hen, it was a joke. It was a morbid joke, Brenda. Duke. What do you want? And of course, people keep coming in. Gives me a good time to walk, take the dogs out. I'll be right back. Could have sworn my fader was better than this. And I am back. Hey CCG, what's up? Welcome to the stream. Sorry it took me so long. And I hope you're all ready for some spooky goodness. But before we get into some creepypastas, I just want to go into my this little book called Gothic Fantasy: Chilling Horror Short Stories. I hope all y'all can hear me. Thank you, Creek Comp Girl. Thank you, Sojin or Brenda. Cage Misery, what's up? How you doing, April? Alright. With that said, let's get into our first story. Let's see. We're going to go into our first story in the book of Chilling Horror Stories of Gothic Fantasies. And I believe this is going to be a classic. I like to call The Call of Cthulhu. Page 312. Turn to page 312. Yeah, shit. Here we go. The Call of Cthulhu by H.P. Lovecraft. Josie Kitty, what's up? How you doing? How long is this anyways? This looks like a parter. So let's see if I can get through this. Alrighty. Trixie, eye the kitchen. The most merciful. Well, part 1. The horror in clay. The most merciful thing in the world, I think, is the inability of the human mind to tolerate all of its contents. We live on a placid island of ignorance in the midst of black seas of infinity. Trixie, go lay down. Of infinity, and was not meant that we should voyage far. The sciences, each straining in its own direction, have here yeah, I'm already messing up. I'm also good. I started off late because people wanted to watch Spider-Man Homecoming until midnight. But here I am. Have hitherto harmed us little. Have hitherto thought harmed us little. But someday the piecing together of the dissociated knowledge will open up such terrifying vistas of reality, and of our frightful position therein. that we shall either go mad from the revelation or flee from the deadly light into the peace and safety of the new dark age. Theosophists have guessed. Theosophists have guessed at the awesome grandeur of the cosmic cycle wherein our world and human race form transit incidents. They have hinted at strange survival in the terms which would freeze the blood if not masked by a bland optimism. But it is not from there that there came a single glimpse of forbidden aeons, which chills me when I think of it, and maddens me when I dream of it. That glimpse like all dread glimpses of truth, flashed out from an accidental piecing together of separate things, in this case an old newspaper item, and the notes of the dead professor. I hope that no one else will accomplish this piecing out. Certainly, if I live, I shall never knowingly supply a link in so hideous a chain. I think that the professor, too, intended to keep silent regarding the part he knew, and that he would, and that he would have destroyed the notes that had not sudden death seized him. My knowledge of the thing began in the winter of 1926 to 27 with the death of my great uncle George Gamel Angel, Professor Emeritus of Systemic Languages, Systemic Languages in Brown University, Providence, Rhode Island. Professor Angel was widely known as an authority on ancient inspirations, and had frequently been restored to by the heads of prominent museums, so that his passing at the age of 92 may be recalled by many. Locally, interest was infested by the obscurity of the cause of death. The professor had been stricken whilst returning from the Newport boat, fallen suddenly, as witnesses said, after having been jostled by the nautical-looking Negro. What? Oh. I hope that doesn't get me in trouble. After having been jostled by a nautical-looking Negro, ugh, I'm in trouble, who had come from one of the queer dark. Oh God, I'm definitely in trouble. From one of the queer dark counts of the precipitous hillside, which formed a shortcut from the waterfront to the deceased home of William Street. Physicians were unable to find any visible disorder, but concluded after the perplexed debate that some obscure lesion of the heart, induced by the brisk ascent of sleep. I am screwing up. By the brisk ascent of so steep a hill by so elderly a man was responsible for the end. At the time, I saw no reason to dissent from from this from this dictum, but latterly I am inclined to wonder, and more than wonder. As my great uncle's heir and executor, from when he for he died as my great uncle's heir and executor, for when he died as a childless widower, I was expected to go over his papers with some thoroughness. For that purpose, moved his entire set of files and boxes to my quarters in Boston. Much of the material which I collated will be later published by the American Archaeological Society. But there was one box which I found exceedingly puzzling, and which I felt much averse from showing to other eyes. It had been locked, and I did not find the key until it occurred to me to examine the personal ring which the professor carried always in his pocket. Then indeed I succeed. Pardon me. Then indeed I succeeded. I succeeded in opening it. But when I did, so seemed only to be confronted by a greater and more closely locked barrier. For what could be the meaning of the queer clay bas relief and the disjointed joltings, ramblings, and cuttings which I found? Had my uncle, in his latter years, become credulous in the most superficial impostures, I resolved to search my fuck me. Fuckity fuck. I resolved to search out the eccentric sculpture responsible for this apparent disturbance of an old man's peace of mind. The bas relief was a rough rectangular less than an inch thick and about 5 by 6 inches in area. Obviously the modern origin. Its design, however, were far from modern in atmosphere and suggestion. For although the vagaries of Cubism and Futurism are many and wild, they do not often reproduce that cryptic regularity which lurks in prehistoric writing. And writing of some kind of bulk of these designs seems certainly to be, though my memory, despite much familiarity with the papers and collections of my uncle, failed in any way to identify this particular species, or even hint at its remotest affiliations. Above these apparent hieroglyphics is this. Bleh. Hieroglyph. Oh, I'm dumb. Above these apparent hieroglyphics was a figure of evidently pictorial intent, though its impressionist. God damn it! Hang on. this better be the last time I'm getting interrupted. Where was I? I'm just, which looks at prehistoric writing, and writing some about these hieroglyphics. I'm just going to restart it from here. Above these hieroglyphics. Wait a minute. I see somebody in the chat. Mutant artificial intelligence. What's up? Hope you're enjoying the readings despite me butchering this classic. And this looks like a multipolar, so I'm just going to read the first part because I'm feeling badly. Anyways. Above these apparent hieroglyphics was a figure of evidently pictorial intent, though its impressionistic execution forbade a very clear idea of its nature. It seemed to be a sort of monster, or symbol representing a monster, of a form which only a deceased fancy could conceive. If I say that my somewhat extravagant imagination yielded simultaneous pictures of an octopus, a dragon, and a human caricature, I shall not be unfaithful of the spirit of the thing. A pulpy, tentacle-headed, surmounted a grotesque and scaly body with rudimentary wings. But it was the general outline of the whole which made it most shockingly frightful. Behind the figure was a vague suggestion of a cyclopean architectural background. The writing accompanying this oddity was, aside from the slack of press cuttings, in Professor Angel's most God damn it. In Professor Angel's most recent hand, it made no pretension of literal style, which seemed to be the main document, was headed Cthulhu Cult. In characters painstakingly printed to avoid the erosion. Hang on. Put it back in the main thing. Gotta get comfortable again. Okay. Was headed Cthulhu Cult in characters painstakingly printed to avoid the erroneous reading of a word so unheard of. This manuscript was divided into two sections, first of which was headed 1926, Dream and Dream Work of H.A. Wilcox, 7 Thomas Street, Providence, Rhode Island, and the second, Narrative of Inspector John R. Lagras, 121 Bainville Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, at 1908, AAS, MGG. Notes of same and Prof. Webb's account. The other manuscript papers were all brief notes of some of them, accounts of queer dreams of different persons. Some of them citations. Hi, Sarah Steph. What's up? Welcome back. Some of them citations from theosophical books and magazines, notably W. Scott Eliot's Atlantis and the Lost Lemuria, and the rest comments on long surviving secret societies and hidden cults, which references the passages in such mythological and anthropological source books as Fraser's Golden Bot and Miss Murphy's Witch Cult in Western Europe. The cuttings are large. The cuttings largely eluded the outshore mental illness and outbreaks of group folly or mania in the spring of 1925. The first half, the first half of the principal manuscript told a very peculiar tale. It appears that on 1 March 1925, a thin, dark young man of neurotic and excited aspect had called upon Professor Engel, bearing the singular clay bas relief which was then exceedingly damp and fresh. His card bone, the name of Henry Anthony Wilcox, and my uncle had recognized him as the youngest man of an excellent family slightly known to him, who had latterly been studying sculpture of the Rhode Island School of Design and living alone at the Fleur de Lis building near that institute. Wilcox was a pretentious youth of known genius, but great eccentricity, and great eccentricity, in great eccentricity. I'm just gonna do the best I can, and had from childhood excited attention through the strange stories and odd dreams he had and odd dreams he was in the habit of relating. He called himself psychiatrically hypersensitive, but the stand folk of the ancient commercial city dismissed him as merely queer, never mingling much with his kind. He had dropped gradually from social visibility, and was now known only to a small group of atheists, aesthetists from other towns. Even the Providence Art Club, anxious to preserve its conservatism, had found him quite hopeless. On the occasion of the visit, ran the professor's manuscript. The sculptor abruptly asked for the benefit of his host archaeological knowledge in identifying the hieroglyphics on the bas relief. He spoke in a dreamily stilted manner which suggested poise and an alienated sympathy, and my uncle showed some sharpness in replying, for the conspicuous freshness of the tablet implied kinship with anything but archaeology. Archaeology. Damn it, I lost my place. Oh, here we are. With anything but archaeology. Young Wilcox rejoindered, which impressed my uncle enough to make him recall and recorded verbatim, was of a fantastically poetic cast which must have typhoid, yeah. I'm just gonna sound the best I can. Which must have typhoid his whole typhoid, yeah. Which must have typhoid his whole conversation, and which I have since found highly characteristic of him. He said, "It is new indeed, for I made it last night in a dream of strange cities, and dreams are older than brooding terror, and the contemplative sphinx, or garden girded Babylon." It was then that he began that rambling tale, which suddenly played upon a sleeping memory and won the fevered interest of my uncle. There had been a slight earthquake tremor the night before, the most considerable felt in New England of some years, and Wilcox's imagination had been keenly affected. Upon retiring, he had hang on. He had an unprecedented dream of great cyclopean cities of Titan blocks and sky-flung monoliths, all dripping with green ooze and sinister with latent horror. Hieroglyphics had covered the walls and pillars, and from some undetermined point below had come a voice that was not a voice, a chaotic sensation which only fancy could transmute into sound. But which he attempted to render by the almost unpronounceable jumble of letters. Cthulhu Flaxgen FHTAGN. Somebody say it for me. Here we go. This verbal jumble was the key to the recollection which excited and disturbed Professor Angel. He questioned the sculptor with scientific minuteness and studied with almost frantic intensity the bas-relief on which the youth had found himself working, chilled and clad only in his nightclothes. When waking had stolen bewilderingly, there we go, bewildering overcome him. My uncle blamed his old age. Wilcox afterwards said, for the slowness in recognition both hieroglyphics and pictorial design. Many of his questions seemed highly out of place to his visit, especially those which tried to connect the latter with strange cults or societies. And Wilcox could not understand the repeated promises of silence which he offered in exchange for an admission of membership in some widespread mystical or paganly religious body. When Professor Angel became convinced that the sculptor was indeed ignorant of any cults, okay, ignorant of any cult or system of cryptic lore, he besieged his visitor with demand for his future reports of dreams. This bore regular fruit, and for after the first interview, the manuscript records daily calls of the young man, during which he related startling fragments of nocturnal imagery, whose Burton always some terrible which Burton was always some terrible cyclopean vista of dark and dripping stone, with a subterranean voice and intelligence shouting monotonously in enigmatical sense impacts, uninscribable save as gibberish. The two sounds most frequently repeated are those rendered by the letters Cthulhu and Rael. On 23rd of March, the manuscript continued. Wilcox failed to appear, and inquiries at his quarters revealed that he had been stricken with an obscure sort of fever and taken to the home of his family in Waterman Street. He had cried out in the night, arousing several others, arousing several artists in the building, and had manifested since then only alternations of unconsciousness and delirium. My uncle at once telephoned the family, and from that time forward kept close watch of the case, calling often at the Thaddeus Street office of Dr. Toby, whom he learned to be in charge. The youth's fervid mind apparently was dwelling on strange things, and the doctor shuddered now and then as he spoke to them. They included not only repetition of what he had formerly dreamed, but touched wildly on a gigantic thing miles high, which walked or lumbered about. He had no time fully described this object, but occasionally frantic words, as repeated by Dr. Toby, convinced the professor that it must be identical with the nameless monstrosity he had sought to depict in his dream sculpture. Reference to this object, the doctor added, was invariably a prelude to the young man's subsidence in lethargy. His temperature, oddly enough, was not greatly above normal, but the whole condition was otherwise such as to suggest truer fever rather than mental disorder. On 2nd of April, at about 3 p.m., every trace of Wilcox's malady suddenly ceased. He sat upright in bed, astonished to find himself at home, and completely ignorant of he had of what he of what he had happened and what had happened. Fuck. Ignorant of what had happened in dream or reality since the night of 22 of March. Pronounced well by his physician, he returned to his quarters in 3 days. But to Professor Agil, he was of no further assistance. All traces of strange dreaming had vanished in his recovery, and my uncle kept no record of his night thoughts after a week of pointless and irrelevant accounts of thoroughly usual visions. Here the first part of the manuscript ended, but reference to certain of the scattered notes gave me much material for thought. So much, in fact, that only the ingrained skepticism then forming my philosophy can account for my continued distrust of the artist. The notes in question were those descriptive of the dreams of various persons covering the same period as that in which young Wilcox had his strange visitations. My uncle, it seems, had quickly instituted a prodigious, far-flung body of inquiries among nearly of their dreams and the dates of any knowable visions for some time past. The reception of his request seemed to have been varied, but he must, at the very least, have received more responses than any ordinary man could have handled without a secretary. This original correspondence was not preserved, but his notes formed a thorough and really significant digest. Average people in society and business. New England's traditional salt of the earth gave an almost completely negative result. Those scattered cases of uneasy but formless nocturnal impressions appear here and there, always between 23rd of March and 2nd of April. The cases of vague description suggest fugitive glimpses of strange landscapes, and in one case there is mentioned a dread of something abnormal. It was from the artists and poets that the pertinent answers came, and I know that panic would have broken loose had they been able to compare notes. As it was, lacking their original letters, I half suspected the compiler of having asked leading questions, or of having edited the correspondence of corroboration of what he lately resolved to see. That is why I continue to feel that Wilcox somehow cognizant of the old data which my uncle had possessed, had been imposing of the veteran scientist. These responses from Estes Estadius told a disturbing tale. From 28th of February to 2nd of April, a large proportion of them had dreamed very bizarre things, the intensity of the dreams being immeasurably the stronger during the period of the sculptor's delirium. Over the fourth, over a fourth of those who reported anything reported scenes and half sounds not unlike those of which Wilcox had described. And some of the dreamers confessed acute fear of the gigantic nameless thing visible towards the last. One case, which one case, which the note describes with emphasis, was very sad. The subject, a widely known architect, with leaning towards the theosophy and occultism, went violently insane on the date of young Wilcox's seizure, and expired several months later. After incessant screamings to be saved from some escaped denizen of hell. Had my uncle referred to these cases by name instead of merely by number? Should I have attempted some corroboration and personal investigation? But as it was, I succeeded in tracing down only a few. All those, however, bore out the notes in full. I have often wondered if all the objects of the professor's questioning felt as puzzled as did this fraction. It was well that no explanation shall ever reach them. The press cuttings, as I have intimidated, touched on cases of panic, mania, and eccentricity. During the given period, Professor Angel must have employed the cunning bureau, for the number of extracts was tremendous, and the sources scattered throughout the globe. Here was a nocturnal suicide in London, where a lone sleeper had leaped from the window after a shocking cry. Here likewise a rambling letter to the editor of a paper in South America, where a frantic deduces a dire future from visions he had seen. A dispatch from California describes a theosophist colony as donning white robes in mass for some glorious fulfillment which never arrives, whilst islands from India speak guardedly of serious native unrest towards the end of March. Voodoo orgies multiply in Haiti, and African outposts report ominous mutterings. Shit. American officers in the Philippines find... God damn it. American officers in the Philippines find certain tribes bothersome about this time, and New York policemen had mobbed by hysterical leviathans of the night of 22nd and 23rd of March. The Western Ireland, too, is full of wild, rumored, and legendary and legendary and a fantastic painter named Adios Bonneau hangs a blasphemous dream landscape in the Paris Spring Salon of 1926, and so numerous are the recorded troubles in insane asylums that only a miracle can have stopped the medical fraternity from noting strange parallelisms and drawing mystified conclusions. A weird bunch of cuttings, all told, and I can at this stage scarcely envisage the callous rationalism with which I set them aside. But I was then convinced that young Wilcox had known the other older matters mentioned by the professor. And I think I'm gonna take a break from that. I forgot how long the Call of Cthulhu is. I don't know. Should I continue on or wait till next time? Or wait till the next episode of Stories After Dark? Because I pretty much ran out of breath. Hello. Hello, Infinite Psychosis. What's up? Welcome to the stream. You just joined me in butchering a classic H.P. Lovecraft story. But that's over with. I hope you're having a... And you know what? I think I'm going to wait until next episode. And hopefully I can try to get some time to come in early. I do know I gotta piss soon, but the old man is in the bathroom. You better not be taking a shit in there, because that would really, really, really piss me off. Oh, my back is hurting a little bit. Hope I'm not getting kidney failure. But yeah, that really gave me a challenge. Like I said, I don't read much of Lovecraft that much, but his stories are amazing and creepy looking, creepy sounding, or whatever you want to call it. And I do try to enjoy them from time to time. I know. B-Head of Horror Hive, welcome back. I see my viewer count has jumped up a significant view. So far, no dislikes. That's good. I may be... Brenda says, did you know they made a movie after The Shining? I've been told that. I just don't know what it is. Creepy Clown Girl. God damn it. Creepy Clown Girl says, anyone up for a VC? Am I boring you? Nah, I'm just kidding. Go right ahead. Yeah. B-Head says, Lovecraft be full of words that be super hard to pronounce. Yeah. Like I said, Lovecraft, Edgar Allan Poe, a bunch of other these people, they are, yeah, they are a challenge. I gotta be honest with you right there. But if I don't challenge myself, I don't. Doctor Sleep. Yeah, that's what it is. Doctor Sleep. Yeah, I've heard about that. I just never got around to. Got around to reading that book. Oh no. Oh, after the stream. I get you. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be up. Still going to be up by then. I mean, I'm probably going to be tired after a while. And Vulgar Carson. Like I said, I don't give a fuck what the fuck y'all want to do. Is you want to fucking do whatever you want? You want to go fucking Vulgar Carson all day, all night? That's up to you, motherfucker. Shitballs. If I wasn't past 1,000 subscribers right by now, I'm probably would have been demonetized. So I'm probably gonna. So I'm probably gonna like say out my curse words as much as I can on live streams. But I don't know. I'm probably still gonna curse after I get monetized. I don't know. I don't give a shit. YouTube's pretty much butt fucking us in the ass, anyways. Alright. Y'all grab some snacks, grab a drink or whatever. Talk amongst yourselves. I will be right back. I gotta go use the tree outside. And I am back. Yeah, you are. Ooh, shit. And I am back. Apparently I had to spray down the tree because the grandpa decided to take a shit without spraying. Ain't that lovely? Ain't it lovely? Anyways. Already missed the groovy intermission music. Yeah, I usually put that up whenever I take a short break or whatever, and try to look for some more stories at the time because I need a breather. And another thing would be talking to you guys. I mean, what's going on? To all the lurkers that are out there, don't be afraid to say something. Yeah, poor tree. Yeah. I'm surprised some people are getting the impression that I'm talking about the toilet. Yeah, everything came out okay. Otherwise, I would be pissing in my. Otherwise, I would be pissing in my fucking couch. But then again, all you heard was loud firewood. Oh, god damn it. I'm probably gonna have to. Loud firewood. Okay, let's see. Let me try a lower for you. Okay. Well, firewood goes great with stories. And that what's been going on in the world of the horror community. I hope everybody is having a good weekend, despite the fact that some states may be on lockdown again. Yes, you said more firewood. Yes, Onyx, you said more firewood. No, we don't. No. We don't need more firewood. Because right now I have a fever. And everybody knows the cure to that fever, right? Yeah, some of you kids don't get it. You know what? I want to see what the delay is like. Yeah, that is a very big fucking delay. Yeah, but anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna just turn off the playback. No, not pause. Yes! Infinite Psychosis correct. Ding, 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 ding. I wish I can give you a stash, but I'm broke as fuck. I don't get paid till Friday, and don't have enough food for. I don't know if I have enough food to last me until Friday, but oh well. God damn it. Word to all those who are going to be starting narrating or doing any horror content on YouTube, don't live with family. And I checked Onyx. I don't think you said. I don't think you said cowbell first, but still, I'll give you credit. Ding, 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 ding. Let's see here. Here we go. I'm gonna take a crack at this. This story. Okay, I get you. Sorry about that. What? How many parts is this? Oh, this is a long-ass one. Shall I attempt it? Yes, I can. Yeah, maybe another time. Let's go ahead and read a classic creepypasta here. And this is actually one of my favorites. This story is called, and I actually did this for the Horror Hive at one time. Go away, Last of Us. No, I don't want to buy your crappy game. Go away. Yeah, fuck you. Okay, I actually recorded this story, classic creepypasta for the Horror Hive at one point in time. This story is called The Art of Jacob Emery. Ghost stories? Nah. We don't have anything like that around here. We do have a story of Jacob. But that's about but that's about as close as you'll get. You really want to know? Well, I'm not supposed to tell you, but alright. Just no interrupting. I don't have the patience for it. How to describe Jacob Emery? Well, I guess you could say he was the kind of guy you can never take notice of. He isn't to say he was a bad kid in any sense. Many people in this town thought he was the most reliable person for an odd job in the state. But he never really excelled in anything. He was living proof behind the statement, Jack of all trades, ace of none. Most of this was due to his own lack of will. He dabbled in damn near everything this town could offer him. Automobiles, radio operation, store management, what have you. But he never stuck with anything. His friends and workers went after him about it a number of times, but everybody got the same unsatisfying response. It just wasn't enough. Needless to say, any friends he kept were either very patient or never spoke of the matter altogether. It was probably inevitable then that Jacob would leave to go aboard. I don't remember where he went, but I think Gertrude down the street knew before she passed on. You'll have to scout somewhere else if you ever get curious. In any case, no one ever tried to stop him. Everyone thought that a little travel would stamp the ambition out of him, or else feed it until it was no longer an issue. Hell, we even gave him a sending off party, which I thought was pretty nice of everybody. So anyways, he was gone for 6-7 years. I can't remember. You'll have to check with someone else about that too. Anyways, he came back eventually, and he had changed, obviously enough. He was admirable, energetic, all smiles all the time, and we all quickly learned why. He showed us a souvenir he bought back. A solid black stick, length of a pencil, but the texture of chalk. We all wondered why on earth such a simple thing would prompt such a spring in his step. Fuck, I lost my place. I saw something in the chat. Anyways, such a spring in his step, until he gave his demonstration. He took a piece of paper, with this stick. God, there's got to be a better word for it. With this stick, he drew a circle. Hello, BDRP. What's up? Welcome to the stream. And no, I chose the story to narrate for the Horror Hive. It was like a while back. Anyways, where was I? He drew a circle. It dropped and rested on the border of the paper, like a stone. It didn't leave the paper, but it acted out on it. Sort of like an old movie projector on the screen. Son, I know how crazy that sounds, and if you feel like playing skeptic, then you can leave an old man to his craziness. But I know what I saw, even if everyone's been hushing it up. And that stone he drew dropped. Jake even passed around the paper. And as it was being passed, it rolled around as the paper got tilted. None of us had any words for it. Hell, what was there to say? But he continued drawing demonstration after demonstration for us. Stick figures in various pageants and plays, doing everything from fighting each other to making perfect human pyramids. And we thought it was incredible. It was all the go-ahead he needed. He announced he planned to put on shows, to pay for rent and food, where he would draw anything the crowd members wanted. That we talked to some length about it, and he eventually convinced us that it would be safe, his drawings ethical, the practice lucrative and unique, and the attention would not go anywhere outside the town's borders. Poor Jacob. If it had not been so swept up in the movement, I might have read the signs right then and there, and saved the sorry son of a bitch from snapping the terrible thing in half. But I was younger. We all were, and we saw no problem with encouraging him with what we all saw as an incredible experience to be shared with everyone else. Now, he didn't have any big radio or television connections, mind you, and the internet wouldn't have come around for another decade. So he did what all people on a shoestring budget do. What all people on a shoestring budget do. He advertised his show with flyers. Flyers might not mean anything to you city folk, but in a small town, they gain a fair glance They gain a fair glance over from time to time. And what's more, Jacobs managed Jacobs managed to stick out by having little figures jump up and down and whatnot to get people's attention. His first show must have gotten nearly 60 or so people. Probably a lot more than that. And his shows were fantastic. Somehow would someone would shout out a scene from a play or a comedy sketch, and Jake's hand would fly over a white wall like a bird. He'd been holding back when he made that stone. That's for damn sure. His illusions were all spot on, and he could make an incredible human figure in minutes. Come to think of it, I don't remember any of his scenes lasting more than 10 minutes to make. They were all really well done scenes. They were all really well done scenes too. Not only could you see a knight charge a castle, Jacob would draw the castle's interior as well, like a wedding cake split down the middle, so you could see the knight scale the walls, fight his way through levels to the dungeon, fight back out with the princess, and make a leaping jump off castle parapets onto his getaway horse, all in complete silence. Not realistic, no, but that was part of the appeal. None of us went in there expecting something real. When a scene or a sketch was finished, either the characters would leave off the wall or he covered the wall with white paint. This was good, in a way. It gave these shows a time limit so that when he finished with all the 4 walls in the room, everybody knew the show was over until the paint dried. Jacob, meanwhile, was changing in a bad way. I mentioned that upon his return. He'd been extremely energetic. Well, that energy, that vitality or fervor, or whatever you want to call it, it never left him. Not for an instant. Far from it. It seemed to grow in him, and he enjoyed it all too much. His eyes grew wider. He slept gradually less over time. His statements and opinions more radical and frenzied. And though he never was a pushover, he started to make people nervous in his company. A month or two passed, and Jake's audience grew like a wildfire. Nearly everyone in town paid to see Jake's art in action, and he had to rent out larger and larger places for them to sit. He now didn't stop after one scene was done. He moved directly onto the next, to put on the next blank space on the wall, sometimes to the intriguing effect of causing scenes to mingle, which the crowd loved. The subject matter got more wild and immoral. The monsters got more bizarre and creative. The fighters using more impossible weaponry. All for the sake of the crowd's intense interest. Jake got steadily more indulgent, which we figured was from the money, and he became a drinker and a womanizer. Neither of which got rid of the vitality, by the way. Some of those women claimed that they'd woken up in the middle of the night to see him scribbling with that stick on the drawing pad. A gigantic grin on his face, and while most of them said they assumed he was drawing them in the nude, there's rumors that 1 or 2 of them got glances of that notepad. Those anonymous few supposedly said that those drawings absolutely weren't nude pics. Neither of them whoever they are, said what he was drawing. Said what he was drawing. Don't bother looking for the notepads or flyers, so they're all gone now. I'm getting off track. Point is, he was hitting the bottle, and that's important because it was that drinking that would eventually ruin everything. One night of his performance, as he walked in front of his cheering crowd, it was immediately apparent to everybody that he was completely drunk. I was in front. I was in the front row, and I could smell the bourbon on him from 10 feet away. The show started when he thought a bunch of. The show started. He went through a bunch of sketches and scenarios the crowd recommended, and at the end, someone asked that he draw himself. Everyone cheered the idea. I guess they never been wondering what his creations thought of him, and he eventually obliged. Sooner, no sooner had Jake finished connecting the final two lines of his code than every single character across expa- the vast expansive wall, all stopped and looked directly at the illustration. The lovers stopped kissing, clowns stopped laughing, robots stopped biting parrots. Everything stopped and looked at the Jacob illustration. The crowd died almost immediately. I remember Jake's face at that moment, pale white, full of terrible comprehension at his mistake. Looking desperately for the cans of white paint he'd forgotten to put out before the show. Everyone else, they were looking at the fake Jacob. That Jacob reached into his pocket. That Jacob reached into his jacket pocket, pulled out a black stick of his own, and as we all watched, drew a door. He pushed the door on his side, and the door swung open, allowing him to walk through onto the floor of the auditorium. The rest was an absolute hellish pandemonium. People screamed and ran for the exits as Jacob's characters, both those currently on the wall and those which had previously left before being covered up, ran out of their own exit, throwing pies, shooting lasers, blowing fire and poison, and the impossible. I was near enough the exit to escape, and gave only one backwards glance. The scene will haunt me forever. Jacob Emery was being dragged by his own creations, kicking and screaming, through the door his copy had made. The auditorium burned down, obviously enough, but I had no idea how many characters escaped. What happened? What happened to the fake Emery? Or how many people died? The fire brought the fire department from the nearest cities up to over 100 miles away. They in turn brought the police force, which brought the government, which hushed up everything. They took the flyers and any art they had made. I hear a baby. They took the flyers and any art Jacob had made and swore everyone to secrecy or else life detainment. The fire was blamed on a cigarette in the garage during a basketball game. we all eventually went on with our lives. Jacob was Ja- Jacob was made to never existed. In retrospect, I realized everything. Jacob hadn't been creating illustrations. Illustrations don't move, much less act or attack. They're just images people see, shadows made to look like real things. Jacob had been making life, actual thinking things in some alternative dimension, using a power that was never meant to fall in mortal hands. He got drunk on his power. His punishment was probably well deserved. Incidentally, the government screwed up on two different accounts. They did a damn good job silencing everyone, but proof remains. The ruins are still there, you know, the auditorium ruins. I hear they're going to start reconstruction soon, which will wipe out any remaining evidence someone can definitely see. But I went back there once, several years after the fire. Just once. Amidst the rubble, covered in ash, I saw something squirming. I looked closer. It was Jacob Emery's hand on the wall, exactly like it had been 3 years ago. Sweaty but calloused, I remember. But but it was constantly flailing, as if the body was the body was as if the body it was supposed to be attached as if the body it was supposed to be attached to was still writhing in flames. That was mistake number one. Mistake number two was those creations. Like I said, I don't know how many escaped, nor how many the government agents found and caught. But I will say this. Those tall grass meadows on the outskirts of town, go don't go into them. Ever. You were asking about the white figures you seen at night, right? This town does not have any ghost stories. The end. Everybody's still up? Yeah, like I said, this was a classic creepypasta that I chosen to submit to the Horror Hive because we were short on narrators at the time, and we're still short now. I mean, I would love for the Horror Hive to bounce back a little bit, maybe do more bi-weekly uploads. I don't know. Let's just say go back to the way it was before. Yeah, because they my family. We be a family. Thank you, B-Head. Yeah. Like I said, I hope Reaper is doing okay. I mean, I know he's got a lot on his plate right now. No, he's got some stuff coming up soon. It's gonna be a video with me and Mad Catter in it. It's gonna be another Reaper's Tales video, and I know that that's gonna be great. Though I don't think I can ever compete with Mad Catter. Let me check Twitter real quick. Yeah, for those of you just joining me, yeah, Stories After Dark is gonna be a ongoing thing. If I don't have any, if I don't have any videos posted up, which I should be doing right about now. That is, if somebody is gonna stop me and say, Evil, I gotta, I recorded a new story. Could you make my video, please? Which is gonna take forever. Or somebody asks, Evil, I need help recording. For a collab. Could you help me, please? And I'm not making fun of those. I mean, I'm glad to help, but I gotta worry about my own shit first, you know? I just wish everybody would just, like, stop relying on me for anything. I mean, I'm glad to help, but still, let me take time to work on my own shit. Yes, Brenda, you have a question? Oh, no, 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 no. Mad Catter and Matt Chatter are not the same person. As a matter of fact, I collaborated with Mad Chatter in a video, which I'm gonna pull up right now. Mad, gotta look up as Mad Chatter, which I hope that would have gotten more viewers. And if it hasn't, that's blasphemous. Eh. And oh yeah, yeah, I'll check it. Yeah, trying to get to my own live stream. There it is. And I'm gonna post the video up here. There you go. It'll be, yeah, that's the link to the video that was featured on in Matt Chatter's channel. Damn it, CD. Damn it, CC. I told you I was gonna get it. I understand you're trying to help out, but damn, let a boy do his own thing. Don't make me go over there and spank you. I know you're trying to be on it, but try to relax. I got this. You got bombed? The hell you mean you got bombed? Aww. YouTube, what the hell are you doing? Bad dog. As a matter of fact. Bad dog, YouTube. Bad dog. Yeah, I was just trying to relieve the pressure from you, Cece. I mean, you done so much for me, for the community, and everything. I think you deserve a night off. Oh, dropped your keyboard and turned off. Oh, I'm sorry. This looks interesting. Well, I just hope everything's settled. This looks like a long read. I think I can do it. Can we do it? Yes, we can. But first, I gotta go to the bathroom. If anybody needs to go to the bathroom, do it now. Otherwise, you're screwed. Alright. Yeah, go to the bathroom, maybe grab some snacks, and we will be right back. Alright, that didn't take long. That didn't take too long. Alright. Oh, I am outside or around my apartment. There are a lot of stray cats right now. There is a really cute Siamese. There is a really cute Siamese kittens. You mean kittens singular? Now, don't let Reaper's Horror try to get those kitties. Anyways, I have returned. I think it's time for, and we are just past the 2-hour mark. I usually don't go this long, but I think that Call of Cthulhu kind of took out a lot, and I had some complications over here. But I'm gonna go ahead and read this. I'm gonna take a sip of my tea. My cat, my family cat hates me. She keeps giving me evils every time I walk past her. Says cool cat. Brenda says the 4-year-old I watch calls the cute balls of fluffiness. Yes, they are fluffy. Like I said, don't let Reaper Sorrow know about them. He'll eat them. Of course, I eat a certain type of cat, but I don't think we're at the point where we're just gonna talk lewdness now. I know, I'm terrible. Gotta get myself comfortable. This is gonna be an extremely long one. And this is a blind read. And when I mean blind read, I don't mean I'm gonna read blindfolded. Yuppies. I'm gonna read it because I had never heard the story before, but it is off the Creepypasta Wiki. Or fandom.com, or whatever the fuck it wants to call it. But yeah, this story is called The Midnight Train. At my old age, I've seen a lot of things. Some things I'm a little more proud than others. As a boy, there wasn't a damn thing that could sate my appetite for the world around me. Everything in reach, I had to get my hands on. Take it apart and study it. My nautical curiosity is what got me into the many scraps and situations of my youth. I remember when I wasn't any older than 6. It was the fall of 1928. It was the fall of 1928, or 1928. Me and several of the local boys were out playing a game of hide and seek. Denny Lewis was the seeker, and a damn good one at that. So I took it upon myself to find a damned good hiding place. I remember the hayloft out in our barn, and figured the baby is crying. Sorry, I had a gas bubble. I remember the hayloft out in our barn, and figured I could hide myself among the many bales of hay up there. Maybe even push some of those bales. Maybe push some of those bales around, like I had times before when I wanted to build a fort and get myself a perfect hiding space. Then he started counting out loud from 100, and I took off running to the barn. The breeze tickling my cheeks and smelling like the harvest. I ran through those big red doors, and my eyes fell on Denny Lewis's mom, lying on the ground, straw in her hair, and her dress hiked up. with my dad laying on top of her, looking like he was trying to pick himself up. But he seemed to be having trouble. I had no idea what I was seeing, but I would later learn all about what my daddy was doing when I was 14, when me and Sandra Hannigan made our way into the same hayloft that I had hid so many times and made so many forts in to get out of the rain. She shook the water from the beautiful blazing from that beautiful blazing red hair of hers, and I noticed my eyes stuck. My nose, my eyes, shit, and noticed my eyes stuck on her nipples, poking out like little buttons in the cold, wet air. She hiked up that flowery yellow dress like she liked to wear and spread her creamy, white, freckled legs, revealing her sweet fire peach. God damn, this is hot. There, in the smell of spring rain and old horse shit, I made love for the first time. Beautiful girl she was. Daddy? My little voice rang out, echoing off the dusty wooden walls. The old man turned and stared at me, like he had been caught dipping his hands into the honey pot. For the lack of better words, that's exactly what he was doing. He hoisted himself off of Mrs. Lewis and made his way over to me. "What are you doing here, son?" He spoke to me slowly and calmly. "I was playing hide and seek, Daddy. I was going to hide up in the loft." "Yeah? You ain't going to be telling nobody about what you saw, right, boy?" I can hear the anger rise up in his voice, but I kept pushing it, like the curious little boy I was. "Well, what exactly was you doing, Daddy?" He just stared at me, his eyes slowly growing darker in the brightness of that fall day. Mrs. Lewis, still a ways behind him, was up on her feet, straightening her dress and picking bits of straw from her long golden hair. I was too busy looking at Mrs. Lewis to notice that my daddy meandered his way over to the wall where he kept his tools and picked out a hefty, dirt-crusted shovel. "You ain't gonna tell anybody. You ain't gonna be telling nobody, right, boy?" He repeated in that slow and calm way he always spoke when he was angry. But me, being the stupid child I was, I just kept right on prying. "Daddy, what was..." I didn't have a chance. I didn't have a chance in the world to ask before the side of my right cheek exploded with pain as I fell on the ground in pathetic bundle. My vision went hot white. All noise became muffled as if the world suddenly got sucked into a vacuum. What I could hear seemed distant, ghostly even. I could hear Miss Lewis screaming her pretty head off, and strangely, the long, low whistle of a train in the distance. Whether it was my imagination or not, I do not know. But I've learned in life that there are no coincidences. I heard that whistle as clear as I could hear Miss Lewis screaming. Sandra Hannigan's soft, whispering moans as thunder rumbled across the gray spring sky, and my father's harsh, labored breathing had stood over me, brandishing his shovel as if it was Excalibur. I heard that train. Lord help me, I heard it. You ain't gonna tell anybody. You ain't gonna tell nobody, you hear? Daddy, Another explosion erupted as my father brought the shovel down onto my exposed chest. I heard several pops and cracks echoing throughout my body. I held my small arms in defense, but they were crumpled like paper. The force of his blow. He dared to raise my hands. I dared to raise my hands up for protection again, only to see my fingers crooked and bloodied. Mrs. Lewis was no longer screaming, but babbling on like she had seen a ghost. My father turned to her and waved his weapon. "Shut up, bitch! Shut the fuck up!" he yelled. His voice, like that of an angry god. While he was distracted, I tried to crawl away. I crushed my fingers, clawing at the straw and earth, pulling myself to freedom. It was all for naught, though, as my father grabbed me. As my father grabbed me by the leg and threw me towards the ladder of the loft. "He's just a boy, Clay. Just a boy," Mrs. Lewis kept muttering. "He didn't do nothing wrong." "I said shut up," he spoke again with that godlike force. He swung the shovel down on me again. I heard a very loud crack, almost like lightning skimmering across the sky. Very faintly, I heard the train's whistle again. That loud, shrill pain in the distance. He flipped me over onto my back and spoke again. "Are you gonna be telling anybody about this boy?" His voice had calmed down, but there was a deeper anger there, calm and intense. I felt one of my teeth fall to the back of my throat. The small fountain of vomit and blood gushed from my mouth as I tried to cough it up. I feebly turned my head and spit out. No, Daddy. I ain't telling nobody." "Good." My father tossed his shovel aside, scooped me up in his arms, and carried me like I was just a baby. His voice had flipped to that genuine concern, like any good father's voice. "You okay, boy? You took a mighty big fall off that ladder. Right, Janice?" He turned to Mrs. Lewis, still holding me in his arms, her face burning from tears. She only nodded rapidly. Yes. Are you okay, Daniel? Are you okay, sweetie?" She rushed over and ran her shaky hands across my tiny, battered face. My father pushed me into her arms. Took him to the house and took him up to the house and put into bed. Tell Martha what happened, okay? I'll go to town to get a doctor quickly, now." Mrs. Lewis pulled me even closer and ran to the house to get my mother to put me down and be comfortable until the doctor came. Before I blacked out, I remember Mrs. Lewis running across the field to my house. The smell of the harvest filling my nostrils. Mrs. Lewis quietly muttering how sorry she was. and in the distance, my eyes caught the slowly moving shape of a black train. Smoke, smoke pluming from the engine, the slow chug 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 of the wheels, and the horrible shriek of the whistle, calling me to darkness. The doctor came and went, but I had no idea. I was unconscious the entire time. A broken hip, 3 broken ribs, one dislocated, a cracked skull, 2 missing teeth, 4 broken fingers, 1 broken wrist, and miles of bruises. Other bits of damage appeared over time. I lost hearing and most of my sight out of the right side of my face. On a good day, I could say I had plenty of them. I had a slight limp, but on a bad day, I was particularly a cripple. My left hand froze up sometimes. Couldn't move my fingers worth a damn. But I got along fine with my condition. Father was never found out, and the fact that Mrs. Lewis never came back around the house only meant she would never speak about it. We just all sort of went on with our life. I lived the best I could for 10 years before I heard the whistling again. Now, it wasn't uncommon to see or even hear a train near the farm. Hell, there was a track not more than a mile from my front door. But this train was different. The whistle didn't sound right. It was like a dying rabbit, nails against a chalkboard, and steam spewing out of a kettle, all rolled up into one. It's like that sound pierces through you and sends shivers down your very bones. Not a pleasant feeling, in other words. I was 16 and living with my fathers before me, working my hands to leather in the earth. I spent time at what my wife would later refer to as a hick school. But I soon left after my teacher figured that I was unteachable. I wasn't unteachable. I just would have rather spent my time reading, or taking something apart, or going somewhere I'd never been. The world was my playing ground. Yeah, the world was my playground, and I wanted to play. The thought of leaving my mother alone with my father scared me, though. I owed it to her to stay around and try to protect her. What my father did to me was only the tip of the iceberg compared to all the things he did to my mother. I remember laying up at night, hearing them fighting. My father's booming voice broken up only by the reality cracking sound of broken glass, or the cool clean sound of flesh on flesh contact. My mother would be in the kitchen the next day with a few new bruises, maybe a cut or two, but she never complained. It was plain for everyone to see, but they never paid it any mind. That's just how things were. I remember it was a pleasant enough summer night. A little humid, but that's just nitpicking. I spent most of my I spent most of the night I spent most of the night on the porch, watching the stars, listening to the creatures of the night, listening to the creatures of the night. Damn it! Listening to the creatures of the night as they went on about their business. Occasionally, I found myself glancing out to the barn. It stood there like a mausoleum in the pale moonlight, the effigy, the effigy to many things: pain, lost love, hard work, and my family who died on this land before me. My mind wandered to memories of Sandra Hannigan, God rest her soul. Memories, memories of the shovel bearing down on me, like a locomotive bears down those endless steel tracks. My mind liked, my mind liked to wonder whether or not I wanted to take the ride. Always has, always will. I remember father driving up in his truck. The bastard was swerving horribly. The bastard was swerving horribly. Obviously, he had indulged in to his heart's content on Jimmy Magruder's personal moonshine. What burn, what burns blues, what burns blues makes you what burns blues makes your blues go away. Boy, he would always say. Let me try that again. What burns blues makes your blues go away, boy, he would always say. I knew. I knew he'd be in a fighting mood, and instinctively made me go to my room. Before I could even reach the stairs, I heard his voice, dripping with that damn white lightning. Martha, Martha, come here. You come here and welcome me home like a good wife should, he said. He shouted in a slurred fashion. The ceramic jug in his hand spilled the foul liquid onto the floor. My mother promptly came up from the cellar without a word and greeted him to his liking. Oh my God, child. A kiss on the lips and removal of his coat. As she turned to put his coat on the hook, he reached out and began to grope her. My mother, I will admit, was an attractive woman, but years of beatings had slowly taken the brightness from her eyes, the skip in her step, and the song of her lips. We made quick eye contact, but just a brief moment said it all. Go to bed, sweetie. Maybe it won't be so bad tonight. Just go to bed. But like most lights, it was the same. Her giving in to this predator and his sexual advances just to keep him happy. She suffered through it in silence. God, the things she did to provide for me. I pray I pray every day that she is smiling down on me while she's rotting in hell. I pray every day that she is smiling down upon me while he is rotting in hell. My mind quickly wandered back to Sandra Harrigan. She did suffer in silence. Did she suffer in silence? Did she let him take her every night? Or did she kick and scream and bite until she was too tired to go on? I don't know. I can't say. God rest her soul. I pray she fought back. I climbed the stairs to my room, trying to block out the labored breathing of my drunken father and the cold, complacent whimpers, and the cold, complacent whimpers of my mother. Laying in my bed, I tried to nod off at sleep, just so it can happen again tomorrow. Soon sleep found me, and I dreamed. A dream that haunted me for years, always picking up new details along the way. My father standing above me with his shovel, staring at me with all of the fury of God. His eyes black as black can be. The shovel coming down. I closed my eyes in fear, only to open them and see Sandra Harrigan before me. Her beautiful, smooth skin now wormy and rotted. Her hair still crimson as fresh blood, and a deep black line ran along her neck. Too horrid to look at, but I can't look away. She hikes up her tattered yellow dress and reviews the further decay of what was once a wonderful sight. She speaks to me, her voice as crisp and clear as it was that day. You left me, don't you, Daniel? All the while the slow, methodical chug, chug, chug of the train. Sandra opens her mouth, her cheeks tearing wide open into a disgusting, skeletal smile, to speak once more. Only her voice isn't there. Only the sound that pierces right through you, chilling you to the bone, scratching at your soul. A whistle. I woke up, sweating bullets and soaking my shirt and underwear. But it wasn't the dream that woke me, as horrible as it was. No, it was the rumbling in my stomach for release. I didn't need to be told twice before I swiftly jumped out of bed, slipped on a pair of trousers, and descended downstairs quite quickly, nearly tripping on the last step in the dark. I could see my father asleep in his armchair in the family room. His jug tipped over, empty and bone dry. The moonlight shone through the window, and I could see a line of drool falling from the corner of his mouth. His head tilted back in the way he always slept when he was in his chair. I quickly shoved on my shoes, rushed through the front door, and off to the tiny little shed far from the house. The grass squishing underneath my feet, and the wind cooled the sweat on my body. I reached the outhouse, flung open the door, and squat down the splintery seat without a second thought. There were always stories of porcupines getting their way in the outhouse and gnawing on seats of the salt from sweat and such. But I could say I never did see a porcupine. A raccoon did get in close. A, a raccoon did get in. A raccoon did get in once. The poor thing fell into the hole and drowned in the shit and piss of the small farming family. Kind of sad, really. That was years ago, and that hole had been long buried. I let myself relax and let my body do what it's trained to do in that type of situation. I nearly nodded off in the smelly little shack, but something jolted me off my seat. A whistle. Long and hot at first, but it grew into a cacophony like hundreds of screaming voices. I quickly cleaned myself and hurried outside. There it was, in the moonlight, not too less than a mile from where I stood, just sitting there on the tracks, which wouldn't have been too uncommon. Just open land and those endless steel tracks. Like I said, I was a curious boy, and obviously something that had been haunting me for 10 years was well worth a look. I broke into a run, the excitement and fear gripping my heart. I wanted to turn back to the house, tell myself that I'm just dreaming, but my feet kept moving. Thank God for the moon that night. I could only see for miles. As I got nearer to the damn thing, the darker it got. The smoke from the engine creeping into the sky and blotted out the light. The bright diamonds in the satin cloth began to disappear. I stopped, only briefly, panting and sweating. I looked up only to find myself right there next to it. It was unlike any train I have seen. It was black all over. So black it hurt my eyes to look at it directly for too long. It was also very noticeable. It was also very noticeably darker right next to the massive engine, like it was devouring the light that got near it. Most trains that came through were freight trains, carrying coal and such to parts unknown. But this was a passenger train. The interior of the cabs brightly lit, revealing its deep red color scheme. And the people, oh God, the people in the windows. Each one of them just sat there, emotionless, unmoving, like statues of some lost civilization. I tried working my way to the front of the thing. Each car the same, filled sparsely with unknown, unmoving faces. One or two passengers did turn to look out the windows at me, only to return to their original position. Their eyes, gray and sad. I kept on walking my way to the engine, till it caught my eye. In one of the windows, it was my father. I wasn't sure at first, but it had to be. It was my daddy. "Daddy?" I yelled out, but he didn't turn to look. "Daddy! Hey, Daddy!" I saw the entrance to the car was wide open, the light splaying out onto the land. I had to get in that car. Why was he on there? I thought to myself. What the hell is he doing? I hoisted myself up onto the metal steps into the car, only to be knocked on my back by a black mass that smelled of oil and smoke. I looked up to see a man standing there, soot-stained overalls, greasy white hair jutting out from under his conductor's cap. He stared at me intently before a smile cracked his lips. "You ain't getting home, boy." His voice was flattery and uneven, high-pitched, yet low and grumbling at the same time. "You ain't got no ticket." His laugh unnerving, like the sound of crunching bugs under your boot. Why you wanted to get on anyways, boy? Anyways, for a boy. His smile still beamed at me. A strange, skeletal smile, wide and menacing. I found myself reverting back to the scared little boy in that barn 10 years ago. My daddy's on there. I gotta talk to him. He just bellowed out his laugh. "Boy, lots of people's daddies be on this train. No ticket, no ride." He clapped his gloved hands together, black dust puffing out. "Please, No ticket, boy. No ride." His voice becoming angry. That's when I truly saw him. His skin pale and free of any sort of blemish, and his eyes were on fire, glowing orange like the coals that moved his train. Those fiery coal eyes burned right through me. "Get out of here, boy. Don't come back until y'all got yourself a ticket." His teeth, they were jagged and pointed like dog's teeth. I am afraid to say I was scared. In fact, I pissed myself right then and there. He just laughed, that crunchy laugh of his. "Diamond, pearl, opal, jade." He turned and slammed the door shut. Behind him. Soon enough, the pistons started their slow chug, chug, chug. Smoke billowing out of the engines. It smelled like rotten eggs and bloated summer roadkill. I still laid there on my own filth, watching the black train slowly pull away. The conductor stuck his head out of the engine booth and yelled back to me over the locomotive. "Maybe next time. Hey, Danny boy." He said, his eyes burning bright as ever. He laid on the whistle close up. I can truly hear the sound. It was screaming, melting steel and burning souls screaming into the night. I only watched as the train pulled away. The screaming black behemoth riding the endless steel tracks. I walked home, shaken, scared, questioning whether or not I am truly dreaming, or if this is all a nightmare. The moon was back out and shining in all of its glory. The stars sparkled in the dark folds of the night. I finally reached home, I numbly pushed the front door open and groaned in protest, but I paid no mind. But I paid it no mind. I trudged to the family room, figuring my father would be gone. But there he was, still sitting there. I quickly crossed over to him, my hand shaking as I touched his face. It was cold. I saw that it wasn't drool that dribbled out from his lips. It was vomit. My father was dead to the world, drowned in his own sick. I saw the devil that night. He took my father with him on that slow, screaming ride to hell. The funeral was like any other. Ash to ashes, dust to dust. A man was buried on holy ground, and nobody but me and my mother ever knew that it was no man, but a monster. I remember how she looked when they lowered him into the cold, hard earth. She had this little smile on her face. No tears, no anguish. Just a smile. She was free. A few years later, she sold the farm. I want to go to the city. Leave all of this behind. Leave all of this behind, she would say. I didn't blame her. I was glad to leave. But I admit I did miss the place once we were gone. And I know she did too. It was a quiet life, a fine life, but she couldn't stand to be in the house where memories ran rapid and hid in every corner and shadow. Whispering to her, reminding her of my father. It was 1942 or 1942. The world was at war, and I couldn't do nothing. But work building bits and pieces for guns and tanks. Being particularly crippled, I was 4F. I could only hear about how all my friends I had grown up went over to fight for liberty and came back in boxes. Oh, that baby's gonna get on my nerves. And came back in boxes. I suppose I was lucky on that part. My mother took up a job in the same mutinous plant as me. Propaganda at its best, I suppose. It put a smile on her face. That's all I needed to know. It was a good thing. We've been living with our mother in Boston, and life was fine indeed. I liked my grandmother. I liked my grandmother well enough, but she always looked at me like I was a leper. She saw too much of my father in me, I suppose. She hated him for what he did to my mother. The beatings were a secret, but she hated my father for taking my mother away. A soldier returns from war and knocks up a pretty young woman with the world in front of her. With the whole world in front of him. Okay. With the world in front of her. Steals her back to his home, where the fruit of several steamy nights ends up dying in his sleep. My sister didn't get much of a chance at the world, but I sure did. She resented me for everything that I represented. a horny father turned soldier. It wasn't until I started being it wasn't it wasn't until I started being clear about it that she started to warm up to me a little more. Maybe Granny was finally seeing what I was. Maybe Granny was finally seeing I wasn't my father, or maybe she was just going to see, or maybe she was going to see now. I don't know. I can't say that I didn't love Claire. Oh wait, it wasn't until I started bringing Claire around. Okay, I I can't say I didn't love Claire. She was a wonderful woman, but I do know that I saw a hell of a lot of Sandra in her. That blazing crimson hair of hers, and those deep green eyes. Maybe it was me mourning for a love long lost, or guilt for never stealing Sandra away from her life. 6 feet of rope. How funny how funny how something so seemingly average could remove someone from your life. I loved Sandra. I did. And so did her daddy. A little too much. She was probably praying that I come to her window at night and steal her away from Romeo and Juliet. She had something inside her, something horrible, something God forgot about. She wanted it to be something beautiful, and it could never be as such. Poor Sandra. God rest her soul. I loved her, but I loved Claire too. Maybe not in the one in a truly hopeless romantic way, but I loved her all the same. Claire and I were married at a lovely ceremony in 1945 or 1945. The war was over. Our boys were coming home, and the world began to get even more scared of itself. The Reds were everywhere. They started saying, the Reds were everywhere, they started saying. I don't know. Men were men. But it's their toys that always end up hurting them. I found work as a mechanic, and Claire was teaching. Money was tight, but we didn't complain. We had an apartment to live in and in each other. We didn't need to worry about much else until one day I got home from the shop, and she was waiting for me. Hey, sweetheart. Hey, sweetheart, I cooed in her hair as I kissed the back of her neck, like I always did when I got home. I'm late. What? I'm late. I don't know what you mean. She took my hand and placed it on her belly. It all hit me. It all hit me ton of bricks. You mean? Yes. She was trying to hold back the tears and smile, but they broke through. I'm gonna be. Uh-huh. My son was born December 19th. My son was born December 19th, 1949. The most beautiful baby boy if I ever saw. William Hudson Bronson. He took after me, just as I had taken after my father. He was determined to make him. I was determined to make him have all the things I never could. But money was tight before, and it wasn't getting any better. My grandmother had died 2 years prior to the birth of to the birth, and my mother was living all alone. But she in but she delighted in seeing her little Billy B, as she called him, over whenever over whenever dropped by, or over whenever dropped by. She loved him with all of her might. I did me I did me well. I did me well to see her so happy. Billy had just turned 1 when I got the news that our old home was back on the market. My mother handed me a check that that had all the money she had been saving for the last 10 years. She told me it would be good to go home, return to our return to my roots, and raise Billy like I had been raised. I didn't think that it was such a good idea. I just knew those memories would be waiting there for me, hiding in the shadows and waiting for me to let my guard down so they could strangle me. Any ghosts in that house? Any ghosts in that house have long since left, my mother said to me. It was a good life. I know that life was hard, very hard at times, but but it was your blood. But it's in your blood, Daniel. You don't like being a mechanic, do you? Haven't you been haven't you been aching to get back to the land? Watch the fruits of your work pay off? I did miss the farm life, but I didn't know how much I missed my farm life. We left Billy with my mother, while Claire and I made our way back to my childhood. The child had gr- the town had grown quite a bit, everything a modern family would need. When we finally did reach the old farm, my eyes fell upon the barn, and a deep chill ran through me. You okay? Claire asked me in a sweet, concerned voice of hers. Goose just walked over my grave, I suppose. The man who owned it, the man who owned it most recently, was a rich yuppie who thought about trying his hand at farm life. Couldn't live without the in, couldn't live without the amenities of the modern man. Fully wired, plumbing, plenty of farming equipment, and completely new paint job and decor. It wasn't my home anymore. Hadn't been for a long time. After our tour, Clara got into the car and instantly spilled out her opinion. We need to buy that house. You really think so? I do. I can work at the school in town. You can make a living here, growing corn, raising cows, and doing whatever it is farmers do. You really want to live here? I questioned. I did want to come back, but there was too much. But there was too much in my head screaming at me not to come back. Yes, she stared. She stared at me intently. She knew that I would crack, like always. She had that special kind of power over me. Then it settled. Then it settled. It's ours. We settled in and we got our new life. And we got our new life off to a good start. The land was good. The crops grew like weeds, and Billy was taking and Billy was taking a liking to the open air. It wasn't much longer after our first harvest that Claire was late once more. We had our baby girl, Esther Esther May Bronson, in the summer of 1953. In the summer of 1953, she took after her mother in spades. a slice of the American dream. I found myself walking out. I found myself walking out to the railroad tracks every now and then. I don't know what to expect to see. Maybe it was maybe it was the sort of maybe it was sort of my way of trying to make sense of something so unbelievable. I never told anyone, not once. The devil and his hellbound train were my secrets to keep. I wasn't crazy. I pray to God I wasn't crazy. Sometimes late at night, I hear a train whistle pierce out in the night. The slow chugging, chugging, chugging push the metal push the metal breast along those endless steel tracks. Push the metal beast along those endless steel tracks. Sometimes I swear I just under those whistles I can hear screams. We led a fine life indeed. Billy was growing up into a man before my very eyes, and Esther was blossoming into a beautiful young woman more and more every day. It, it was 1968. Another war was going on halfway around the world, but it didn't bother me none till Billy came to me and said he was going to join the army. He wanted to be fighting for his country. Claire had, Claire had a fit, as expected, but he had his mindset. But he had his mindset, and he was damned if anybody was going to change his mind. We got we got his letters every week, and every week we'd write back. I was sleeping. I was sleeping. It came again. First time in years. My father standing over me holding his shovel, his eyes burning orange like coal. The shovel came coming down on me before the scene melts away. And I'm with Sandra, my lovely Sandra, in my lovely Sandra in the hayloft, exposing herself, to, exposing himself to, exposing herself to me in a morbid yet sexual and exciting manner. Daniel, do you love me? You love me, don't you, Daniel? You know I, you know I do. Her rotting lips formed a smile. Her gaping maw opened to reveal an unimaginable darkness. From the darkness came a low whistle, slowly building into deafening screams. I woke up, sweating bullets and soaking my nightshirt and pants. I didn't have to use the bathroom. It was the it was the whistle, cutting out into the night. God damn it. Hang on. So sorry about that. Alright. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. I woke up, sweating bullets, and soaking my nightshirt and pants. I didn't have to use the bathroom. It was the whistle, cutting out into the night, calling me like a sailor to the rocks. I silently slipped from the bed and down the stairs, each step creaking slightly under my weight. I slipped on my shoes, flung the door open, and started running. The wind chilled me slightly to the autumn. The wind chilled me slightly in the autumn night air. My mind raced with the memories reaching out, but from the corners and the shadows of my home. But from my mind, not from the corners and the shadows of my home, but from my mind, reaching out and trying to hold me down and suffocate me. It was the same as it was all those years. The smoke plumed from the engine, falling to the ground and lingering like a thick black fog. The deep black metal glared back at me as I walked along the side of the great beast. The devil stood outside the car, watching me as I approached, his eyes burning brightly with excitement. Diamond, pearl, opal, and jade. Danny boy has come back. Still no ticket, I see. His voice shuddering through me, but I pressed on. Why are you here? Oh, my, Danny boy. We all have a job to do. This is my job. But why are you here? In that moment, I heard my father sneaking into my voice, a calm and quiet anger. Dad? A voice from inside the car rang out like a bell. Out of the open doorway stepped my son, Billy, clad in his officer army gear, and looking quite confused. Dad? Billy? The word got caught in my throat. I ran over and held him close to me. I never wanted to let him go. Billy, why are you on this train? Don't know. I remember my squad was walking through the jungle, and then there was a white flash. I woke up on the train. What am I doing here? I don't quite know myself. I smiled slightly. I squeezed him tighter. It's good to see you, Ben. It's good to see you, boy. How touchy. The devil spoke up. You have 5 minutes, Billy boy. The devil stepped into the car and made his way to the engine. Once I knew he was gone, I grabbed Billy's hand and tried to pull him away. Come on, son. We gotta get you home. He pulled away from me. No. Billy? Dad, if this is what everyone else is on their saying, I can't leave. I can't, Daddy. No. We could go home right now. Tell your mother you're home and no. I belong here. And who knows, maybe this train Maybe this train don't just go to hell. Maybe it makes stops off somewhere else. I don't know. Billy, Dad. I heard from friends of mine who went home. They got problems, Daddy. I'd rather be dead than mangled and fucked up in the head. I'm sorry for cursing. It's okay, son. We stood there in silence for a long moment, staring at each other, trying to think of the words to say. All aboard! I love you. I love you. Goodbye. The black male behemoth pulled away from me once more, screaming down those endless tracks. I waved goodbye to my son after the train, long after the train was out of sight, even after its screaming whine disappeared from the night air. I watched, I prayed. Just like every week, I got another letter. Only this time, it wasn't for Billy. Claire was wrecked. She wouldn't leave the house for days. Laying around and crying, wailing that she could have kept him here, kept him safe. She left me not more than a year after that. She said she couldn't stand looking at me and seeing Billy. I also know she hated me. I couldn't join her in her sorrow, in her pain. I got to say my goodbye. I got my closure. I don't blame her for hating me. But to take my daughter away from me was just cruel punishment. I haven't seen either in years. Many years. I did the best I could. I tried to live life as best I could with what I'd had. I was a good father. I was a good son. I was a good husband. None of that means a hell of beans in the long run. Though, none of that means a hell of beans in the long run, though. We all end up in the cold, hard earth, feeding the maggots and creepy crawlies that haunt our nightmares. I can hear it now, screaming, the screaming in the darkness, calling out to me. I've seen a lot of things in my life. Some things I'm more proud of than others. As a boy, nothing could sap my appetite for the world around me. I suppose that there is just one last thing to figure out. The train is out here, and I finally got my ticket. The only thing left to do is to take a ride. Oh, fuck me. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be a tearjerker. Sorry. I guess you gotta expect the unexpected, right? And to be honest with you, that almost got me into tears. Well, hope all y'all are still awake. Thank you. Thank you, CC. Despite me slipping up a couple of times and me getting interrupted once. Yeah, shit. But yeah, that was indeed a good story. I did see a couple of fuck ups in the end, because not because of my fuck ups, but I also saw some grammar mistakes. But I did the best I can to try to give you people everything that you need. But yeah, you know what? I think I should add this story to my repertoire. What say you? Do you think maybe this story is good enough to be made into a video? As a matter of fact, I'm gonna okay. Okay, I'm trying to look up okay, this is not okay, I found a story on Reddit that says Midnight Train, but it's not the same thing, so I should be good. And I did read off the creepypasta wiki. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this into my bookmarks of stories. Creepypasta wiki and save. Alright, I think that's gonna be all for today. I'm sorry if these stories were super long, but we almost getting close to the 4-hour mark and I am getting tired. I just hope all of you had a very good time. I, however, do have a couple of announcements to make. Like I said, I got some stories in the works. One's going to be from the Lizard Queen herself. I'm going to get that I've gotten that edited out. I got to put it in video format. And as soon as I'm done with Philio Noctis' video, I'm going to send that off to her. She'll premiere it, and then I can get back to work on my own shit. Also, I asked permission. Yes, Horror Hive. What do you suggest? Well, while I wait for you to make your suggestion, I'm going to make an announcement that I'm going to be starting a new story series. Well, a couple of new story series. One by, if I can look the guy's name up real quick. Let's see here. First story series is from No Sleep, which I got full permission, cooperation. I didn't get a chance to talk to the guy and say, yes, it's from Veristal, and it's called Mystery. And I'm gonna be looking for a male voice actor to play the part of. I forgot the dude's little boy's name already. But it is an ongoing series, and I did promise Cage of Misery the part of Sarah, and the part of Everett is going to be played by whoever auditions. I mean, I'm going to make an announcement on Twitter. Make an announcement on Twitter about that. But also, I got another story series that's been written by Bo, or Skellabone, or she used to be called Bo Whiskey. And this looks like a very good story. I mean, I've heard it read by read by Dr. Creepin. Well, she told me that it was read by Dr. Creepin before I started reading it, but I asked her permission, and she gave me the okay to do it. I'm gonna be doing some open auditions for that story series too. I've already gotten one volunteer already. Lily C Nation is going to be playing the part of Annie in the story called Dead Man Walking. Not Dead Man Walking, Dead Man Running. And and it's going to be a long ongoing series as well. It's going to be about 21, 22 chapters. I'm going to make the casting call on Twitter as well, so I'll be on the lookout for that. And I'm waiting for Beehive to make a suggestion, so I gotta reshape my couch. My butt's starting to hurt. Beehead, did you fall asleep? Okay. Here we go. We think you should ask a female narrator to cameo in your narration for the story while you do the male voices. That's all we're gonna think. That's all we're gonna say. I might do that because I've noticed my female voices have been slipping a little bit lately. And I think I know the perfect female. And I think I owe it to her. And I gotta get in contact with Raven if she's available. But yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna have to do for tonight's episode. I want to thank everybody who came out to come listen to me and probably fall asleep to me. Sarah's special thanks to Meow Meow, the first one who commented it, and special thanks to Bree Thompson, Sarah's Death, Mutant Artificial Intelligence, Cage Misery, Creepy Clown Girl, Beehead, aka Horror Hive, Joseph Kitty, Josie Kitty. Thank you for coming out. Sojin, aka Brenda, and Onyx Vale, and Mutant Artificial Intelligence for a short while. Cool Cat, thank you for sticking it out to the end. Who else came in here? And I got a text from Creepy Clown Girl saying he made the suggestion in chat. I saw it. I answered it. And I want to thank Infinite Psychosis for coming out as well. You've been awesome. And if you noticed that I've had Nightbot out throughout the stream, yes, I've gone around to doing the Nightbot thing, but only just hawk my social media shits and my Teespring shits. Because I don't have that many people hawking my shit out. But yeah, I'm gonna end with the usual spiel. What does that say? Beehead says, "We don't mean anything against you, Evil. It's just that you have such a manly voice." Oh yeah. Oh my. A manly one at that too. Okay, I'm gonna stop before I get in trouble. But anyways, I'd like to thank all of y'all for coming out. I'm gonna end with the usual spiel. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy. And make sure you follow me. Find me on my social medias: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Buy the shirts at Teesprings. At Teespring. Donate to my Patreon. Donate to my Patreon or PayPal, or if you have any written stories that you like yours truly to read for your viewing pleasure, you can post them in my subreddit or email them to me. And that's all I gotta say. So until next time, I'm Evil Outcast, and I'll be watching you in the shadow.